Is hypnosis really just the same as these guys? Hi, I'm Dave Ruby, and this is not just a thinly veiled illusion or analogy to the Matrix. These are placebo pills, and this video is all about hypnosis and the placebo effect. So this video actually came about from several conversations where it was brought up that hypnosis could just be basically the placebo effect. Now, to kind of back up for a moment, placebos are basically any substance or treatment where there's no active ingredient or active therapeutic effect. So most people think of placebos as these guys. Again, they're just capsules, and there's nothing in them. If you open them up, they're empty. You can actually add your own herbs or ingredients if you wanted to. You can make creatine pills or whatever, but there's nothing in them. And that's a strangely difficult purchase to justify to someone when you say, I'm getting placebos, and they say, oh, what do they do? Well, they're gel caps. But placebos play an important role in research and medicine because any pill, any procedure, anything that has any kind of therapeutic value has to beat these guys out to make it to market. And funny enough, not all placebos are built the same way. They're not all equal. In fact, there are three different types, or three categories of placebo. There are obviously the pills. There are also placebo injections and placebo surgeries. So the placebo pills that most of us think about, they're pills. You just take them. There's no medicine in them. There's no active ingredient. For placebo injections, it's a fake needle that has a hole in it. There's no medication. It doesn't actually penetrate the skin, but it does poke you, and it feels like you're getting a needle injection. Most interesting are the sham surgeries or placebo surgeries. And a sham surgery is when they prep you for surgery. They they clean the area, they anesthetize it, they'll actually make the incision, and then they'll pretend they do something, and then they'll sew you back up and wheel you to recovery. And all of these work to varying degrees. In fact, sham surgeries work the best, sham injections work second best, and the placebo pills or sham pills, they work third best. Also of note is not all placebo pills are made the same either, or they don't work the same. Generally the most effective placebo is this, a red oblong capsule. Except in Italy, where blue seems to work better. Also, these do have different effects, believe it or not. Red, as well as yellow and orange pills, they work better as stimulants, whereas blue and green placebo pills work better as tranquilizers. They're more calming. So you can actually be a little strategic with your placebos as far as what colors you take for what effect. And now again, everything in the market has to beat placebo. Placebo is literally the most researched thing in science and medicine because it's used almost in every subject or almost every trial. Now, a few interesting things about placebo. An extensive analysis of trial data from some researchers in Canada found that responses to sham procedures, sham treatments have actually become stronger over time. That means two things. One is that if you're trying to get a drug to market, it's harder to beat placebo pills or injections or surgeries. So it's harder to actually get things to market. The other implication is that we're getting better at responding to placebo. Now, the study I found said this only held true for US clinical trials, and I haven't found a good explanation for why that is or if that's at all changing anywhere else. But according to the one study that I'll link below, one of the studies at least, that only holds true for the US market, which I found fascinating, but I have no explanation for yet. Now, another article titled Hypnosis, Hypnotizability, and Placebo examines several studies for correlations between hypnosis and placebo. And in short, this article found that there was only one study that directly addressed the issue of any kind of relationship between hypnotizability and placebo responsivity, and essentially no significant correlation was found. Other studies examined where any kind of correlation could be made and found there was really no significant correlation between the two. So in other words, no study shows hypnosis and placebo to be the same thing. They're not really tied together. So how are they similar and why are they different? First of all, are they different? Some early articles I found didn't make a distinction. They flat out said that hypnosis was basically placebo. And if you think about it, that does kind of make some sense. Because placebo is basically you take a pill, even if you know it's fake, it still works. There's an implication that if you have something that you want to change, you take one of these, it's going to have some effect. Hypnosis obviously is largely about suggestion. You're there to change something, and in general, hypnotists will do an induction, and they will do they'll give some kind of suggestions and often future pace and what have you. There's an overt sort of suggestion that you will change based on whatever you're there for. Now, it does depend on the definition. Michael Yapko, who is a prominent hypnotist and researcher in the field right now, one of his articles that I'll link below, it lists placebo, or it describes placebo as one type of suggestion. So if placebo is one suggestion and hypnosis is another, it does not mean they're identical. They're different types of suggestion. Now, researcher Irving Kirsch, who is very prominent in the field even now and has been for quite a while, he describes hypnosis as an active psychological treatment, whereas placebos are inert. Now, what does that mean? Well, placebos, if you have a placebo and you take it, you just swallow the pill or get the injection or procedure, and then you're done. All you're doing is you're taking the treatment, and there's nothing else to it. And there's also the implication that if you take the treatment, that the body or the mind is going to improve. Whereas hypnosis, again, is more active. Now, that's one way to describe how they look, how they seem to work, but what's actually going on? What if the brain's doing the exact same thing for both? Well, they've actually done research using transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. Essentially, they looked magnetically to see what areas of the brain were firing off. And the TMS research suggests that placebo effect requires the involvement of the prefrontal cortex, whereas hypnotic suggestibility is increased when the prefrontal cortex is hypoactive. In other words, for placebo to work, the front part of the brain, that has to kind of be more active, and for hypnosis to work, generally speaking, that part of the brain has to kind of quiet down. So the importance of that and the implication is that they're kind of the inverse, right? They operate in opposite ways. So that's just based on what the brain's doing whenever one effect's happening versus another. When hypnotic effect is happening versus placebo effect. Another fascinating article I found was Nicholas Spanos, who does a lot of research on this stuff, or he did. He was prominent in the 1970s until he passed away in the 1990s. But he actually found two important findings. One is that people can actually be strong hypnotic responders and weak placebo responders, or vice versa. So you could actually have different levels of responsivity to placebo than you do to hypnosis. Whereas if they were the same thing, you would expect those to be kind of linear. Another one he found, another fascinating finding in one of his studies was when placebo preceded hypnosis, the researchers found that for a pain study, when they did placebo first, they found significantly more pain reduction in highly hypnotizable subjects. However, the opposite was not true. When they did hypnosis first and gave placebo, there was no difference as far as how they recorded pain or how they felt. So what that means is that potentially you could actually take one of these before hypnotic subject or before hypnotic session and compound your results. I have to give some credit to hypnotist Bob Burns, who I trained with several years ago. And before I read the Spanos article, Bob taught his students that you could actually use hypnosis as a way to get the best of both worlds, so to speak. So you could have someone come in and, again, red's generally the most effective, so you give them a, red placebo pill and have them take it before they have the session. And most people would just take the pill. Now, if they ask, well, what's in it? Well, it's a placebo. There's nothing. It's empty. And if you wanted to, even now, knowing what you know from this video, you could actually tell them, or even know yourself, that this is going to work based on some psychological phenomena that we may not fully understand, but that we have measured and researched for decades at least, if not longer. So, what does this mean? Well, first of all, one of the findings that we found was that hypnosis and placebo appear to be different types of suggestion. So they don't appear to be the same thing, but they do appear to work in somewhat similar ways, or at least to similar effect. They can both be described as different types of suggestion, where placebo is more of a passive implied suggestion and hypnosis is more of an active and often overt suggestion. We also noted that they're compoundable. You can actually combine hypnosis and placebo effect, which I think that offers some really fascinating possibilities in the future. It's also worth noting that hypnosis has been shown to outperform placebo in general. And the effects of both are very well documented. Please note that's not a slight on placebo, because if you think about it, you can know that there's nothing in this pill. You can take it and it'll largely, for most people, it'll have a very, very measurable and known effect based on how you respond, how your unconscious mind processes that you've taken a pill that and the body knows there's nothing in it. There's nothing that is actually causing an effect. There's no, nothing. So that's something that's the power of your unconscious, taking the implication that you have something you want to change, you've taken a pill, therefore there's the expectation something will happen. But that also speaks to the efficacy of hypnosis, right? Because hypnosis generally will perform better and it's an active process that works in a different way. And hypnosis obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, hypnosis has also been known or shown to work in conjunction with other modalities like CBT and different psychological procedures. So in short, hypnosis and placebo appear to not be the same thing, but they do appear to be related, and they do kind of operate in similar ways based on, your unconscious, based on the suggestion that you do something that's going to have some change. And then your mind or body or the system takes it on and makes some kind of change based on that. But if you're interested in more information, I did link some resources below, as well as a more formal write-up, as well as links to those resources and articles mentioned. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if there's anything you want to see more of, anything you want me to address in future videos, then please let me know. But thanks for watching. Have a great day.